I remember as a child, without a friend in the world, without a soul to talk to or confide in, I used to try and find friends online. I would go into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, specifically the party game modes, because that was where most people had voice chat, and desperately try to make friends. If they were a girl, even better. It's embarrassing to say now, but I would go into zombie lobbies by myself and wait for people to talk. If they were a girl, I'd stay. If they weren't, I'd instantly leave. I had a brief interaction, a single game, with a young pregnant woman and her boyfriend. I wonder even now how they're doing. I wanted a girlfriend, simply because I was lonely. But even more so, I just wanted someone to talk to, without the innate fear I felt around men. And yet, even then, I felt normal. It was fleeting, sure, but sometimes I even felt happy, because I did not yet know of the horrors that my mind could bring, what terrible, terrible things my brain could do to me, what my vivid imagination could conjure up. But no, that's not entirely accurate either. I knew of those thoughts, at least somewhat, but I just never understood them. I would constantly swear in my head, and being raised religious, I surely knew God himself would strike me down from heaven, from atop his throne, for saying such blasphemous things in my head. With lightning. When I went camping and got a piece of flour on my lip, I instantly knew that if I licked my lips, even just once, that I would be certain to die. When I now recognize his childhood OCD made me face my mortality at such a young age, and yet the hell hadn't even reached its conclusion. I've often told my girlfriend that all of my trauma happened too early in life, and I say this because I don't believe I am capable of saving anymore. I don't even believe I'm worth saving in the first place, even though I fully understand that the only person that could save you is, well, you. I'm tired, dear viewer. As a child, I thought so many times that I would die. And now, as a 24-year-old adult, that fear has almost vanished. But not for any good reason, no. Because now, the hell, the rot, has fully reached and encompassed my brain. I feel no fear simply because I want to die. I now understand my thoughts, and yet at the same time, I have never been further away from understanding them in my life. I hope to explain such a phenomenon in this video. Hazy Mind is a game that seemingly understands this. And today, in this video essay, I am here to give not just my perspective, but those who I've met, those who have suffered just like me. During my stay at a mental hospital back in September, I met so many different people, and each had their own story to tell. Today, friends, I will be telling their story, my story, and the story of Hazy Mind. I feel it's worth saying this. I don't want anyone to pity me. That's not the point of this video at all. No, instead, I just have to get shit off my chest. I have to express myself and try and be understood, simply because I can't think of any other way to cope. Because this game has inspired me to do so. So don't pity me, don't feel bad for me, but know this. I am suffering in such a way that is beyond my comprehension. I am living in a hell that I never thought was even possible. I understand many will see this video as a pity party, but I promise you it's not. There are no party hats here. I simply want myself and my condition to be understood in its entirety. This game is explicitly about psychosis, something that I unfortunately suffer from. While I discussed it in my Psychopomp video, I will be opening up my heart on this one. Of course, I won't just be venting to you, but instead I'll be analyzing myself and the game of Hazy Mind. Furthermore, this game, and thus this video, will contain themes of psychosis, depression, killing, and the taking of one's own life. If you're not comfortable with that, please click off this video. I'll see you in the next one. I want you to imagine this scenario. You can't do it anymore. Life is just too hard. Every day you wake up is a day you wish you hadn't. And yet somehow it finds a way to get harder every single time. It can be for whatever reason, whether it be mental illness, trauma, the loss of a loved one, a breakup, anything. For whatever reason, you don't want to be alive, and so you do something about it. Then, nothing. You reside in a space without color, without sound. And yet, even you can tell, you haven't let go. Not yet. You're still alive, but just unsure of where you are. Each memory begins to slowly fade away. Each recollection becomes more blurry than the last. It becomes not just a question of where you are, but instead who you are. The air gets heavier, breathing gets harder. Where are you? Who are you? I see faces of whose eye color I don't recognize. The demons and monsters are swarming my vision. I hear screaming, "Somebody please help me!" Confused, scared, and with nothing left to do, you fall back asleep. Sweet silence. But then you feel something at the back of your head. It's comforting, reminding you of when your mother used to caress your head as a child, before this disease took hold of your brain. Curious, you decide to open your eyes, only to see her.
Hello. You've finally woken up. You must be feeling lost and confused right now, unsure of where you are and who I am. Don't worry, I'm here to help you. I need to tell you something that might be hard for you to hear, but it's important that you know. This isn't the first time this has happened. You've woken up with no memory before. Every night, your memory is reset. You cannot remember yesterday or any day before that. After a failed suicide attempt, you went through a lot of stress, and that's why you can't remember things.
Morana, that's her name by the way, then goes on and continues her explanation of your current state. Your mom hired her to look after you. What a kind mother. It seems Morana is here to help you in your daily life, regain your memory, and assist you in finding out all the things you need. That last part is crucial. Already you should be at least slightly doubting who Morana is, and the fact she acts as a guide within a video game you are playing set off at least a few alarms in my head. Just a bit. But moving on. We see all the essentials of what we need. A first aid kit, the kitchen, a phone with emergency services, and your address. Apparently our all-time favorite meal is eggs on toast. An interesting meal. I surely hope they're pasture-raised eggs. Morana says we could take a tour of our room, milk outside a bag of milk outside a bag of milk style. But before we do that, we have to take our medication. Are antidepressants to keep the panic attacks away. This is where the first major choice of the game lies. Do we take them? If it were up to me, I probably wouldn't. I've been known to be a bit non-compliant with taking on medications, having to put in a monthly regulated injection of Abilify after I expressed to my nurse practitioner that I sometimes thought the government was poisoning me with my antipsychotics. And not in a deadly way necessarily, I wouldn't really mind that, but more in a can't function or make art because of them kind of way. Of course, due to the nature of my condition, I know I could potentially become a danger to myself or even others without them, so I don't object anymore to the injection. I now understand I have to take them. For antidepressants specifically though, they don't really do anything for me. And I've kind of given up on being happy, more on that later. So, well, I've been withdrawing from them for about 3 weeks now. I'm sure my NP won't be happy during our next meeting, but it's also kinda her fault, since she makes me take a pill and a half, which means I have to cut one of them in half, killing it, separating from its other half, denying it access to the heaven that is my body's digestive system. Despite everything, dear viewer, I don't want to hurt anyone. Okay, side tangent over, back to the game. In my playthrough, I chose to take the pills. Doing so gives us flashbacks to our suicide attempt, but it's okay. We are okay. After we take them and rise from our bed with Marana's assistance, we notice a few things. Well, 2 things specifically. Her hands. But no, we don't talk about that, so I'm asking so many questions, except for the one she wants us to ask, of course. She's patient, even telling us we can save and revisit these questions at a later date. A different playthrough. But hey, what's the thrill in that? Wait, save? Different playthrough? Sorry, that was my fourth wall break alert system. We don't have to worry about that now. That's for future section Alex to discuss. I didn't follow Marana's advice, and at the time of this writing, only completed 1 playthrough, so I only asked certain questions. I picked, as is this playthrough from AB's pure gameplay I screen recorded, link in the description, to ask where her mom was. And to that, Marana doesn't know. Our next question, while this playthrough picked exactly what I did, is why is it night and not morning, even though we just woke up? In this, we discover a few things. That the girl has the same exact sleep pattern than I do, and secondly, that we dropped out of school. Interesting, we'll keep note of that for later. Finally, we ask why Marana looks so strange, even though she completely dodges the question anyway.
You're probably wondering about my makeup, right? I love to experiment with my face and try out different looks. So far, this is my favorite.
No, Marana, I'm not wondering about your makeup. I want to know about your hands. She actually gives good advice here, not caring about what others think. Tell me about your hands, Marana. Time for some free play. Click around, I dare ya. The most obvious thing to click first is your laptop, which serves as the very foundation of your reality at this current moment. No, I won't elaborate any further than that. Once pressing the laptop, we are privy to several files, 3 of which are short stories written by the girl herself. The first is of Julian and Amelia, and I think it's better to let these surprisingly profoundly touching stories speak for themselves. So I'll let them play now and then reflect on them after. These stories, all centered around love in some way, seem to be a reflection of how lonely the girl feels. With no friends or parents in sight, she instead pours her desires into her stories. She wants love, yet has probably never properly received it, leading to either sad stories or wishful thinking, something that Marana even points out once you leave the laptop, criticizing you for your foolishness and weak grasp on reality. The girl is just like Icarus, writing stories on love without ever experiencing it herself. But before we get to that, we have a mini game. Yay! And then after that, we have perhaps the most important section of the laptop, a conversation between the girl and someone named IO. I'll let this conversation once again speak for itself. This reminds me of myself as a child, desperate for friends, and yet I had no one to even push away. IO seems cruel here. Perhaps they are, but you have to understand that people don't exist to save you. As IO says, you'll always need to save yourself. This loneliness, especially in your formative years, doesn't just go away. If you've been alone long enough, that feeling of anxiety that everyone will leave you will bleed into every relationship you now have. That you aren't good enough, even if it's been years since that time. You could be in a room full of friends and yet feel utterly alone. But why? What did I do wrong? Tell me, I will correct it. He understood something important. Feelings connect everyone, whether they are real or not, and they are a part of everything. We look around the room a bit more, gleaning more and more details about the girl, about you, by the objects in the environment. And then we get to the diary, the centerpiece of everything, the key to unlocking our forgotten memories. As Marana sleeps in her chair, we read. friends. We talked with friends. Things were normal. Things were okay. Even if we felt alone, even if we're tired, things would surely be okay, right? Rhea and I sat together. I brought her cookies. She is kind. I have many friends. They're a way to avoid loneliness. But the teacher wouldn't like that. I submit nothing. Mother doesn't care. That's life. Life is usual. And yet someone confessed to me today. It feels so unusual. Seeing each other now. Rhea can wait. I'm not sure what I want to do about my life, but that's okay. Things are looking up. I love to draw, especially different creatures. For instance, I recently drew a chubby black cat during class. My imagination can run wild sometimes. But in class, believe it or not, I thought I saw that exact cat I drew walk into our room looking so real. I instantly knew it wasn't real and laughed it off, blaming it on being tired from school. But deep down, I'm worried and scared. I know mental health issues can be inherited. I had a grandfather who took his own life. My mother often spoke of him, remembering him as a great man, and cried for him. Said he lost his mind after my grandmother's death. I'll never meet him, though I wish I could have talked to him. It's a pity. I don't romanticize mental disorders like movies do. I think it's not normal and should be treated otherwise. People can completely lose their minds. Anyway, that's the worst situation I experienced. Hello, diary. Life goes on as usual, but I want to vent, maybe even cry a little. I think something terrible is happening to me, and I'm too scared to tell my mom, even though I know I should. I don't want to become like some psychopath or schizophrenic. I hate the idea. Only fools romanticize that, as these are scary diseases, and people do horrible things when they suffer from them. Hey, you still with me? No, this isn't part of the diary entry. This is just part of the video. I want to talk to you about something. Just you and me. I have many friends now, and yet I feel as if they barely know me, let alone understand me, because I don't open up to them. Why, you ask? For multiple reasons, but mostly because I'm scared. Because I don't want them to see me as some horrible person or even a killer just because I suffer from psychosis. The girl's perspective here to equivalent psychopaths and schizophrenics is sadly not new. It's not even abnormal. People throw around the word psychotic like there's no tomorrow. You're psychotic, or he was absolutely psychotic when talking about an ex-boyfriend. I hear from people that suffer from mental illness, people that don't. Everyone says it. I even was just watching Mr. Beast's new video, and he said it. And when they do it in front of me, it hurts. Even those who know me in my condition, they say it without a second thought. They see me, even if not directly or subconsciously, as a monster, as a horrible person. I know I'm unlovable. I know I'm sick. My brain is diseased. This world wasn't meant for me, and that I wasn't meant for this world. But dear viewer, I don't want to hurt anyone. I'm not a monster. But it's hard to not see yourself as one when everyone else sees it that way. And you can say I'm over-exaggerating, that it's just a hardly offensive slur, and honestly, you're probably right. But when you already live in hell, the worst part is society telling you that you deserve to live there. When you already want to die, the worst part is society telling you that you should. And people do horrible things when they suffer from them. And people do horrible things when they suffer from them. And people do horrible things when they suffer from them. And people do horrible things when they suffer from them. And people do horrible things when they suffer from them. Now, we'll be talking more into exactly why the girl thinks this way, as I don't necessarily think it's a reflection of what the creator of the game thinks. Even if the secret ending is abhorrently abysmal and its eventual portrayal of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. The creator did delete it after all, so I'm keeping the benefit of the doubt that they don't truly believe this terrible message. If you want to see it for yourself, because I won't be showing it in this video, there's a singular video on YouTube on it, although I personally found it hard to sit through the whole thing. Okay, back to regular scheduled programming. I recently read a story about a woman who killed her own kids overnight because she was schizophrenic. From what I understand about this illness, you see creatures or places that aren't real, just in your mind. That's been my feeling lately. I've started seeing weird creatures, especially when I'm bored. Like during classes, I see them often, and it's hard to get rid of them unless I distract myself. I know I should tell mom, but I'm terrified of being diagnosed or accepting that I might never be able to live normally in society. That would be like death to me, since I'd no longer be ordinary. I'm still thinking about it, but I'll write more if there are any updates. In this entry, we learn the girl is certainly slipping into psychosis. Whether that be actually schizophrenia, as she describes, or some other type of psychotic disorder, is left to interpretation, but it hardly matters. She is suffering. To her, death would be preferable to not being ordinary. I did it. I told my mom today. It was hard, and seeing her reaction was painful. The look in her eyes and her expression said it all. She might see me as a monster. Maybe she doesn't believe me and thinks it's just a teenage prank. I don't know. I took a lot of time and effort to get it out and find the right moment. I don't know what to do next. This is the first page I've cried on. Sorry. It's just very hard for me. I want to tell others, but people might avoid me. No one wants to be around someone like me, I'm sure of it. I might go mad and hurt them or myself. Who knows what other horrible things might happen. So, I'll keep quiet until the end. For now, my mom and I have scheduled an appointment with a psychiatrist she knows. I don't know my diagnosis yet, but I'm just fearing the worst. Life's been tough, especially when things are finally starting to get better. I've been in a relationship with a boy, my relationship with my friends are better than ever, my school grades are good. Okay, diary, I write when I have the strength. Goodbye. It's clear here that the girl doesn't want to hurt anyone, and yet doesn't understand exactly what psychosis is. A failure of the system itself. She can't comprehend that suffering people can, and more accurately are, normal in most cases. It can be a dangerous disease, as evidenced by her earlier example of the mother killing her own family, surely a mirror to real cases. But with the right help and intervention, especially early on, this doesn't have to be the case. Hurting others or yourself is never a guarantee, only a very slim possibility. Schizophrenia. It's hereditary. I got it from my grandfather. I've been removed from school, but my mom arranged me to be treated at home because the quality of the mental institutions are terrible. I didn't say goodbye to Rhea. It was too hard. They'll probably tell her I transferred schools and moved away. I haven't talked to my boyfriend since my last diary entry. In fact, I've been ignoring him. I know I'm being horrible to them. Maybe it's better that they never knew me. It hurts me to do this. I cry every night. Sometimes we need to be so cruel so people can get disappointed and move on and forget about us. I'm hurting them and myself. But their pain will pass. They'll move on, find someone else, and I want to believe they'll be okay. Things will never be okay for me again, not because of my mood, but because of the illness. No one knows how to cure it. No pills will help. The hallucinations will become more and more real, scarier and scarier, and there will be more of them. I don't want to think about it. It's too terrifying. Since I left school, I'll have to study at home and focus on self-education. Starting the new year, my life will change entirely. I understand you, protagonist. I want to say things will get better, and while I acknowledge medication helps a lot, it doesn't cure anything. It stops me from going manic and potentially hurting myself or others, and that's why they're important and I need to take them. But for the day-to-day, antipsychotics actually often make negative symptoms worse. To be frank, I've given up. If you want my completely honest thoughts here, I've completely given up. Happiness will be but a fleeting memory, one that is stirred and briefly awoken 2 or 3 times a year. And even then, it's faint, a shadow of its former self. I'm tired. Tired of fighting every day to be happy, whatever that concept even means. To properly describe this feeling to you, I want to share an excerpt from America Dreamin', the feature-length film I'm working on. Please enjoy, and I'll be voicing all the characters here. Why do you write? I wanted to change the world. Abel, having stopped falling, sits up, still a drawn figure. No, actually, I don't think that's right. Abel stares at a drawn door. Do you remember what Vincent said? Abel nods. You just want to be happy, dear. That's why you write. No, I don't think that's true either. Abel now appears to be confused. Are you sure? No, I'm not. But I already know what the stars look like. Abel sadly smiles. They are. They are. I used to feel them, but one day I couldn't remember their touch. They say as long as the sun and the earth are here, everything will be okay. But Mom, I can't see them anymore. A drawn Beatrice, Mary, and a hanging Vincent stand in a triangle behind the door staring at Abel. Will you ever be happy? Abel goes to open his mouth, but hesitates. I suppose if I had to answer, Abel hesitates. I want to be understood. No one will ever understand you. And scene. The last time I was happy was when my girlfriend brought me to Burnt Kingdom in Canada. We took a picture with the parrots. I was smiling in that photo. And yet the further I get from it, from that singular moment in time, the more blurry it becomes. You could even say my mind gets hazy. I forget little details, the emotions I felt at that moment. And that terrifies me. I want to live in that happiness forever. All I want is to preserve what little happiness I have left, what little dignity I still have. I've decided when I do die, whenever that happens to be, I want that picture at my funeral, as a time capsule, forever immortalized. I don't want things to get worse, and even now, I can feel it. Myself, my brain, my mind slipping further into the realm of the unknown and bizarre. My rot grows ever closer to my skull, to the point where I can physically feel the sickness festering under my skin. As I slip further into psychosis, I can't discern what's real and what's fantasy. I want to say it gets better, and it truly does for some people. Like with Cecilia's incredible recovery, featured twice in the brilliant YouTube channel Special Books by Special Kids. But dear viewer, all I see is hell before me, filled with the same evil demons that live inside of my head, the ones that control my thoughts. All I see is hell. New Year's is coming soon, but unsurprisingly, I'm not in the mood. I think I made the right decision by distancing myself from everyone. Take my boyfriend, for instance. Our relationship would never have worked out. It's not because I'm bad or can't act normally. I'm not crazy. But relationships have goals, like starting a family. I look ahead and I don't want my children to experience what I'm going through now. It's better for both Ray and him to move on in life. I'm getting increasingly bored these days since I'm not attending school, so I entertain myself by imagining various creatures. Of course, I could play video games all day, but I'm tired of that. When you're free to do anything, it's hard to enjoy things that you once found pleasant after some time. Perhaps everyone truly would be better off without me. The New Year has already passed. Mom and I celebrated it together. Dad didn't even call, let alone visit. Honestly speaking, I'm not mad at Dad. My mom is very angry with him and doesn't want to see him. He found a new family and left us. It's not that he found a family, he just found some young girl, a student. I understand that my mom is very disgusted by this and that he left us for his own pleasure, but I think she needs to move on in life. By that, I mean to find a new man who will love her and move on. The only problem is my presence. I completely ruined that possibility. Your mom loves you very much despite this and works hard for my sake. But what's the point of all of this when I don't have a future? That's why I think it would have been better off if I didn't exist. Not a day goes by that I don't feel like a leech on my family, a cancer on my parents. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to financially sustain myself. Because I can't handle a full-time job. I can't keep separating cups at work or throwing out food. And because I have lofty dreams of being a writer someday, and yet while I believe in myself and my future, I also don't. It's strange. While I have full confidence in my abilities and know someday I'll be rich and famous, I think subconsciously I don't believe that. I try to imagine it in actuality, but all I see is nothing. Perhaps I don't even think I deserve it. A disgusting excuse for a human being such as myself. At the very least, I just don't want to be a burden on anyone anymore. I don't write this hello diary anymore because I see no point. Honestly, I see no point in writing here either. I feel so bad the only thing I could do is draw to distract myself from everything. The hallucinations are getting scary, but I'm used to them. Sometimes I hear voices, but they're more like noise. My psychiatrist prescribed me antidepressants and antipsychotics, but she noted that they might have some side effects. On top of that, I can't sleep at night, so I've also been prescribed some sleeping pills. But one sleeping pill usually doesn't help, so I take 2. And now it seems like consuming these damn pills instead of food, which aren't helping. I mean, they cost a lot of money, and my mom stays late at work more often. She changed shifts, and I barely see her now. I feel terrible because I fear that these voices will become more than just noise, and I'll start listening to them. I don't want that. I don't want anything. The voices. I remember being in the hallway of my home and hearing my girlfriend calling my name from down the way. She was not home at the time. Normally, I just have touch or visual hallucinations, usually having to do with moisture. It rained in my room for a week straight once. I could feel the wet drops on my pale skin. Oh, and my steering wheel was constantly wet. Or when I saw the word death on a certain radio station's info scroll for months. Still unsure whether or not that was even a hallucination, but it was on a pop station, so take that with what you will. Or when I saw a water splash when I sank a ball in pool. I mean, it was a really good shot, but come on, brain. Well, hello, diary. Yes, I wrote earlier that I wouldn't write like this, but who cares? I drew some works and will paste them into you now. I hope you like it. Wait. What? What is this? Wait. Is this Morana? It looks a lot like her. Was I familiar with her before? Why didn't she tell me about it? Or even then, was she with me because my mom couldn't be? But why didn't I write about this event in my diary? I looked in her direction. She was still asleep, right where she was. I need to ask her about it after I finish reading everything. I opened the diary again and continued reading. Today I had a fight with my mom. She called me a mistake, said I do nothing, and that I'm a burden, and called me stupid. I understand she said it out of emotion, but she was telling the truth and only the truth. I have no friends, no job prospects, diagnosis, and all I do is take pills that cost an incredible amount of money and don't even help. I can't even talk to anyone. I can't tell strangers on the internet about my diagnosis. It will look like I want pity. I just want to confide in someone, cry on someone's shoulder. But what's the point? If I cry, will everything suddenly become good? No. Nothing can help me now, and I need to accept that. At least Rhea was right to suggest I keep a diary. Thank you, Rhea. Without the diary, I would have killed myself a long time ago. A burden. This is actually kind of funny, because I'm literally telling strangers on the internet about my diagnosis, about my problems. Perhaps they truly will think I'm throwing myself a pity party. I surely hope that isn't the case. No, instead, I just want to confide in the empty void. Kind of like writing a diary, funnily enough. I write for myself, and what myself wants is to be understood. So I write my videos and release them into this endless digital void. I haven't cried in God knows how long, so that's not really what I'm looking for either. I guess I just want someone else, at least one singular person, to know. You know? Hello and goodbye at the same time, diary. I decided today to overdose on all the pills prescribed to me. I see no point in living and trying. I don't want any of this. Fear gripped me and I felt goosebumps. On this exact day, I decided to end my life. I finally understand my actions. Even now, it's hard to imagine what I've been through. These hallucinations probably pushed me to the decision. No matter how hard I try, there's no helping me. Not in any way. Okay, that should not be the main focus right now. What's important to me is that I find out who she really is and how her drawings could have been in my diary. Perhaps I truly will never be helped, never be saved. I understand that the only person that can save you is yourself. When you don't even want that for yourself, when you know you don't deserve it, it's hard to muster up the energy. When the radio has told you 1,000,000 times to take these thoughts all the way, to finally end your existence, well, it's hard not to listen. Let's wake up Marana. But she doesn't stir. Goosebumps cover your skin as you can no longer breathe. You work up the courage and shake her. She grabs you with her terrifying hands. The monsters laugh at you, taunting you for believing her lies.
Oh my god, how can someone be so stupid? I just can't anymore. Where is your intelligence? How can someone be like that? Haven't you tried thinking? I am not real, and even a fool would understand that, right? Even someone who hit their head 100 times could figure that out. But the nonsense in the diary that you made up, do you really believe all that?
What are you talking about? Stunned, you take a step back. What is Marana saying? She isn't real? And the diary, our memories, what of them? We listen on.
I understand it's a very sad story, but even this sad story is made up by you. Why invent such a tragic story for yourself, for a friend and a boyfriend? You hate the truth, don't you? Well, think about it again. truth is, you never had any friends. You didn't have a Ria or a boyfriend either. You made them up, just like you made me up. Practically everything you wrote in the diary is not true, but fiction. Think about it again. You write in your diary about how your boyfriend and your friend ignored the fact that you suddenly disappeared. What nonsense is that? Think if you really had friends and a boyfriend, they wouldn't know where you live? That sounds illogical. Very illogical. Damn it, illogical. Do you really think they wouldn't visit you if you suddenly disappeared? Something like, oh, my best friend disappeared without telling me anything, and I'll just do absolutely nothing. Or, yes, I love her, but she disappeared and I'll just accept it. That sounds stupid. Don't tell me you actually believe they would continue their lives with your disappearance. Even considering that you're in school and you are practically children who can't do anything in this situation, your friends or your boyfriend wouldn't abandon you. They would try to find you. Something might have happened to you. Do you understand what I mean? But unfortunately, all of this is just your imagination. No one is going to look for you. In reality, you're just a lonely girl with schizophrenia and a bunch of psychological disorders who doesn't leave her home. You've had this illness since childhood. You didn't go to kindergarten or school because of it. And your mom kept you at home. You hardly saw the sunlight in your life. Not that it's her fault. She was scared to let you out among people because you always acted strangely and other children always laughed at you and bullied you.
The truth. Here, finally, is the truth. In reality, we are a lonely girl with no friends, with a psychotic disorder. There is no best friend or boyfriend or happy life that was suddenly ruined. You were born sick. You were always diseased. And just like in OMORI, these feelings will always bubble up to the surface. She develops schizophrenia in the diary because, much as she may want, the girl cannot escape this inevitable truth about her own life. Her real life is reflected in her short stories, yearning for love but having never experienced it.
Your father left your family not because of some student he found, but because of you, and you know it. It's all because of you.
Yes, you understand now. It's all because of you. Everyone leaves because of you. Of course, we'll be getting more into the mom thing, don't worry.
You've gotten too caught up in your own play. I'm tired of being in it. I'm leaving. Stay by yourself and enjoy the solitude, since you love to suffer, right?
You love to suffer, right? I have a problem. I want terrible things to happen to me. The worst possible scenarios to be my reality. And when I imagine these things, I think of myself as a character in an anime. The reason for this? I'm honestly not sure. Perhaps it's a narrative delusion. Perhaps I truly do want people to feel bad for me. All I know is that I want to suffer. I love to suffer. Right? Goodbye, Marana. Now, what will we choose? Do we go after her, or do we stay in the comfortable solitude of our room? Mustering up whatever courage we have left, we run. We run towards the truth. But not before we see a curious creature, one that I literally have no explanation for, but I'll try. Everyone leaves. Perhaps this has been a cycle. Perhaps we have been here before and then forgotten, then remembered, then forgotten again. The truth has been shoved down our throats so many times, yet each time we deny it. We deny it, yet we chase after Marana anyway. Courage. A curious thing. We have the courage to run towards the truth, but not to accept it. What the fuck is that smell? What the fuck is happening?
Why are you so afraid, darling? Can't even turn your head. Am I that terrifying to you? You're insulting me with this kind of behavior. If you don't turn around in 10 seconds, I will kill you. I am counting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good girl. I thought that you were really stupid, but I see some progress. Well, well. Who do I see? A little girl, lost in her own mind. Did you get lost, dear? It must have been very scary to see what you saw. I understand you like no one else. It's okay. Sooner or later, this was bound to happen. What you see is your mother, or rather, what's left of her. Ah, yes. Who did this to her, you ask, right? You did. You did this. So, you remember? Wow. I didn't know your memory worked even a little. Amazing. Really amazing. Astonishing. You remember everything, and yet feel not a speck of your guilt. You are such a petty creature. The most pathetic I've ever encountered. Decided to play God and take people's lives. What were you thinking? Your mother's only fault is that she raised you. An ungrateful pig. I don't see enough despair in your eyes. Do you really not care at all about what you've done? Don't you believe me? Or do you need proof? I understand. It's hard to admit and remember your crime. Better to remember nothing and feel no guilt, right? But you're lucky, because I will gladly show and tell you everything in detail. I'll open your eyes to the truth.
You want to shut your eyes, but your eyelids are gone. You want to run, but there's nowhere to run to. You want to scream, but there's no space big enough to contain your fear. No, girl, you cannot do anything. Cannot do anything except listen to my story.
difficulty, you dragged her body to her room.
Well, dear player, what will you do? Good night.
Hey, are you there? Wake up. Do you really think that sleep will solve all your problems? Sleep only helps to escape reality for a while, unfortunately. You're probably thinking that it would be better to not wake up at all. You might be surprised, but I think so too. Because I suffer from the fact that you're alive. I wish I could be free. Forget it. You can't help me anyway. I know you can't help yourself either. I thought there were no situations in life without a way out. But your situation, there is a way out. Honestly, but it's kind of a dead end. It's chosen when people think there's no other way. I feel sad for you. I'm sad to see you suffer.
Suicide. Morana is talking about suicide. Such a fickle thing life is. Just as Monica says, to be able to delete your own existence with a simple click of a button, or a sudden wrong turn in the throughway. It's funny in a way. I've always wanted to end my life. As a child, I took solace in that possibility. It made me smile. Thinking of my funeral, of how people would finally care about me and my life after it had ended. Knowing full well people actually already cared about me. I grew up with great parents, a slightly dysfunctional but still standard family. So what gives? Why did I want to die so badly, even now? I've never wanted my parents to love me. Even in my earliest days, I remember always being extremely uncomfortable with the thought. I don't want people to love me. I don't want them to care about me. I don't think I deserve it, sure, but it's not like I've always thought that way. I used to view self-hatred as pointless and stupid, something that can never happen to me. And yet, despite that fact, I still wanted to be alone, chasing after an abstract concept of a girl even while intentionally distancing myself from others. Funny, isn't it? The contradiction. No, friends. I think I've always wanted to die because I was never alive to begin with. My childhood was nothing more than a bizarre dream, one filled with harsh screaming and delusional thoughts. I cannot begin to describe to you this feeling of being born dead, never having a starting point, of moving to the beat of another, letting the demon control my every movement with the GameCube controller that rested on his palms, of having my life be a fucking Charlotte's Web sequel. I lived once. After 8th grade, I was born and lived in this world for a while. 4 years. I was afforded 4 years. And damn it, I did make the best of it. But again, starting college, I died. 17 years old, the age of onset. I'm not sure if this is some kind of miracle or a long-lasting manic episode, but I cherish these memories. Memories that, over time, I've lost. My hazy mind cannot remember anything anymore, from interaction with my friends to the eye color of my girlfriend of 7 years. Kaya, I know you don't usually watch my videos, but if for whatever reason you made it this far, just know that I'm sorry. You met me at my best and yet have known me at my very worst. You were there for my death, and for that, I cannot apologize enough. Like with Bird Kingdom, I want to preserve those memories, that brief and fleeting happiness. But the more time passes, the more my mind becomes corrupted. The more I forget. And dear viewer, I simply don't know what to do with that. I get fleeting glimpses of that joy during my rapid cycling manic episodes. They feel great, honestly, but I know I'm a dangerous person to myself and maybe even others when they happen. I will sacrifice my happiness in every timeline if it means I won't have to hurt anyone. During those moments, life, what little I have left, becomes completely and utterly inconsequential. I am God, and me crashing my car into a pole means nothing more to me than a funny joke. A legitimately hilarious one, in fact. But I don't want to start knocking on neighbors' doors. I don't want to scare them. Dear viewer, I don't want to hurt anyone. And yet, I do anyway. Today at work, I separated the last 2 pennies in the register, giving one to a customer and one remained. Alone. I could hear her cries of pain and anguish echoing in my head. Today at work, I had to throw away food. And that seems completely normal. I understand that. But to me, as someone who believes inanimate objects have sentience, you have to understand that, to me, that is the equivalent of murdering someone. A real person. And yet, I do it anyway. Out of social obligation. I know I said earlier that I'm not a monster. But I lied. I am. I never told you this, Kaya, but they threw in my apron at work. They got me a new one. And today I found out we ran out of the one thing you would actually eat when I brought it home, the chocolate hazelnut banana cake. The signs are everywhere, around every corner. I knew you were going to leave before we even talked about it. I knew because I saw the signs. The radio told me that I don't deserve you, that I truly am a monster. I'm sorry. I really am.
I'm speaking honestly, putting aside the image you've created of me. You just wanted to be healthy. Have a friend, a boyfriend, go to school. So many kids have these things, but don't appreciate them because they consider it normal. You, a lonely child, were very unlucky in life. You're actually smart and pretty, but your illness, unfortunately, you'll keep losing your mind more and more. And soon, you won't be able to distinguish imagination from reality.
I mean what I said. If I could trade all of my gifts and creativity to be normal, I would do it in a heartbeat. For you. But sadly, I don't have that option. I'll keep getting sicker. My brain will become more diseased. Soon I'll start hearing voices that aren't yours. Imagination will become reality, and reality will become imagination. And I don't know how to stop that. I don't know what to do.
I feel like I should help you, even though you want to see me as a monster. It may seem untrue, but in the deepest corner of your soul, you wanted to be scared at that time. You wanted adrenaline? I don't know. In any case, monsters won't bother you anymore. And I'm sorry for yelling at you earlier. I don't know what came over me. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to help. We're alone now. I know what you've been through, and you must have many questions. Like whose corpse is lying in the room? I'll tell you right away, I don't know. I'm just your imagination, and I can't distinguish reality from your imagination. You must be feeling terrible right now. Let's go outside instead. Fresh air will help clear your mind. It's night now, and the sky is likely to be especially beautiful. You've hardly ever gone outside before because of your illness. How do you like the idea?
Yes, we have many questions. Let us walk, Morana. Milk instead of bag of milk instead of bag of milk style.
Beautiful sky. It feels like the stars are trying to talk to us. They twinkle so fast, as if they're sending a signal. Or is it aliens? Just kidding, just kidding. And the night air smells so wonderful, combined with the slight chill. Don't you agree with me? And that is what I'm talking about. I'm so glad we came out together. But unfortunately, it's not the only reason we left the house. We need to talk. About you. about your dreams, regrets, and thoughts. It's very sad for me to say this, but the end is known. And I think you understand what I mean.
Of course I do. I've always known that.
I'm selfish, trying to sweet-talk you when I myself want to break free from the shackles. But I think you also believe this is the way out, right? I knew you'd answer like that. You're just saying that, but deep down, I know how you feel. Because I am you. And you are me. It's strange. I wanted to talk to you, but I don't know how to start the conversation. I guess I'm too anxious. I just feel sorry for you. And I don't know how to help you. There's nothing in the world that would help you, and I know how lonely you feel. You're not alone. You have me after all. You always talk to me when you wanted to get something off your chest. You're a kind person who wouldn't hurt a fly.
This is an important line, and I want to discuss something with you. Did we actually kill her mother? Is there even a corpse in the other bedroom at all? It's complicated. The evil demon says there is one, but his story could just be as fabricated as the diary entries. Because they all come from, ultimately, the girl. Even Mirana's clearest self-reflection of the girl's thoughts. She doesn't say anything that the girl doesn't already think. Reality is subjective, yes, but it is the girl's reality that is in scrutiny here. Let's say for a moment that the girl did, in fact, kill her mother. Why would she do this? Does being psychotic truly make you a killer? An evil, unforgivable person? No, of course not. That much is obvious. It's mentioned multiple times that the girl has hardly been outside much at all, which, while that makes the scene that is explicitly outside even more important, it also signals to us what may be the real problem here. She doesn't understand much of anything. A morality system is based entirely on your society's subjective interpretation of what wrong and right is. If you've never been exposed to it, you'll never learn that. Pair this with subconscious resentment being kept inside from her mother and the lack of any level of self-awareness, something born from interactions with others, it isn't hard to see the girl killing her mother and not understand the implications of that action literally at all. A terror, a fear is clearly there, but that seems much more primal than full self-awareness of her actions. And when you, again, pair this with psychosis, where it's extremely difficult to distinguish reality from fiction, then while I don't think murder is excusable in almost any capacity, this would certainly be at least a somewhat understandable case. No, viewer, she doesn't kill her mother because she is psychotic, but because she has been abused and trapped inside. That's if she even killed her mother at all. Again, it's very much left to a personal interpretation here. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think that if she actually killed her mother, the game would have ended before reintroducing Mirana and going on for like another 20 minutes. But that's nothing more than just a hunch.
And I know you have no one to talk to. Even your mother, she was always too busy to talk to you. Video games will never fill the void inside you, and I understand how much your existence in the world torments you. Sometimes I feel it would have been better if you were never born. Even in the event of your death, there's no one who would cry for you, right? That's the most saddening part. Usually it's only family and close ones who hold you back from the edge. But you have no one. I wish I could take your hand, the younger version of you, and lead you away from these problems. That version of you that still doesn't quite understand what makes them different from others, to make you a healthy child.
I cannot stress to you the importance of early intervention with psychosis. Seriously, it can make a world of difference, and the science really does back that up. Parents, if you're watching this, look for signs of early depression and anxiety. Take them to a psychiatrist and encourage them to talk openly and honestly. While onset often occurs later in life, if you gleaned anything from this video, I hope it's this. Most of the time, the suffering begins at birth. It's just harder to recognize, harder to understand. And if any kids are watching this, please seek help for any mental health problems you may think you have. It can go a long, long way.
Imagine your life if that were true. You would have a friend, a boyfriend, a loving mother, and a very bright future. It's what you always wanted more than anything in life. Though these are simple things, aren't they?
Of course they are. Which makes it all the more painful that they're out of my reach.
People on the internet, they don't quite fill the void you have inside. Some just disappear without a trace. They delete their account forever, or they just remove you from friends. They start ignoring you as if you were never friends. They all leave. Absolutely everyone, no one will stay with you, and no one will truly worry about you. Though you, if I remember correctly, really cared for them. Sometimes it seems that all people are cruel by nature. They will betray you at the right moment to make it even more painful for you.
People can be cruel, but so many people can be kind. As a creator on this platform, yeah, I've had my fair share of people roast me for pronouncing 𝐋𝐢𝐯𝐞 wrong. Still one of my favorite comments, by the way. But I've met so many kind individuals. Those that feel vulnerable enough to share their stories or those of their loved ones. Even if I don't respond, just know I see it. I understand you. And in some way, you understand me. You should never look to the internet to save you, just as we shouldn't look towards any person to do so. But that doesn't mean everyone is cruel. Remember that. And I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but the 𝐋𝐢𝐯𝐶 thing earlier was a joke. Obviously, I'm not actually hurt by it. I just thought it was very funny. This video probably needs some brevity.
𝐋𝐢𝐯 was such an example for you. That's her nickname online. Because of your amnesia, you probably don't remember her. Perhaps it's for the best, but I still need to tell you, because I want you to have a better understanding of yourself. When you were a teenager, you actually had many friends online with whom you often spoke. And since you were children, you shared everything that happened in your life. You became friends with 𝐋𝐢𝐯 shortly before your 13th birthday. You became practically best friends, and you knew about 𝐋𝐢𝐯's problems in life. Everyone had problems, and you worried about 𝐋𝐢𝐯, and even cried when she was hurt, always trying to support her. When she was at the toughest moment of life and death, you saved her. But could she do the same for you? Obviously, she didn't do that for you. She just deleted her account at some point when you wrote to her about your problems. Since you knew her by heart, you easily found her new account. She added all the friends from the previous page there. All except you. And she shared photos where she enjoys life. I can't imagine what you felt looking at this. Sometimes, you even thought about writing to her. Ask what's wrong. Maybe there was a mistake. After all, you wanted to be friends with her. Even if she didn't want to support you, you still wanted to communicate with her, even without her support. That's how lonely you were. I think this has greatly affected you. You still, after years, follow her social networks, where she is happy. And it seems she's already achieved everything in life. I don't know if you're happy for her, or sad, or hate her. What do you feel for her?
Humans are social creatures by nature. After all, it's how we've survived for this long, how we've thrived. We see connection in others, and in doing so, come to know ourselves. My child mind didn't quite understand this, but I think I do now. I was lonely, desperate for friends, even though I hated connecting with others. And yet, I needed others. Because without them, I could never come to understand myself. This is the entire point of Evangelion, that you can't live without others, that even if you just want to be left alone, you will still, without fail, search and yearn for connection, even though you're terrified of being hurt by them. You really aren't alive without connections, bonds. And to be deprived of that, especially at a formative age, will do lasting damage to your psyche.
You're too kind to her. I think your kindness will be your undoing.
And yet, we choose to feel happy for IO. We want her to live her life, the life we know we never can have, because we are truly kind.
You never know what a person is fighting with, do you? You might think she had reasons for such an act. You're very kind, truly.
We choose to enjoy the moment.
Don't make me laugh. Many want it, but only a few achieve it.
This game is really trying to hit close to home, huh? I'm a screenwriter myself, and the character of Abel in my feature film is also a screenwriter. As I showed in the far above excerpt, Abel only wants to be understood. That's why he writes. But a part of him, and thus a part of me, wants to bring you comfort. To tell you everything is going to be okay, or that maybe it's not. That it's okay to cry or be in despair, that you are valid in those feelings. I wish to be understood, yes, but I also wish to provide comfort, just as Marana does. To show you someone else is going through this stuff too. Perhaps that is the entire point of this very video.
For the better? That's a subjective concept. Good and evil are subjective. Even so, everyone has different standards. What seems for the better to you might seem for the worse to many. You understand what I mean? Not at all. Every person is different. What can you do? Someone engages in charity, and for them, it's good, while someone else kills people and considers it charity, as it frees people from a terrible life.
Here again, we see the girl's confusion on morality, as Marana is, again, a self-reflection of her. She doesn't understand because she hasn't been taught to understand, has been around people who guided her into understanding.
Me? Well, you came up with quite the question. How can I handle it? I'm not so thoroughly thought out as a personality. Whatever you come up with, that's what I will be. Are you kidding? Can you imagine me in that doctor's attire? That's too funny. What kind of doctor would I be if I don't have normal fingers? That. Yes, I remember. These are gloves. Well, hands are burnt. That's why I wear gloves. I don't want you to see that. My hands look terrible. A fire, obviously.
Finally, we acknowledge the godforsaken hands. Let's take a moment. I wanted to write this part at the end of the video, but I kind of found the perfect ending to the video on accident, so let's just put this here. Okay. The game very obviously breaks the fourth wall. But why? Well, to explain why, I'd like to share with you a brief excerpt from my Milk Outside a Bag of Milk Outside a Bag of Milk analysis video. Enjoy. As a child, I frequently imagined myself to be a video game character. When I say this, I mean it very literally. My perspective was often from a top-down third-person POV, identical to the bird's-eye view you would find in any common RPG. This was not by choice, mind you. It would be accurate to say that I had no control over this. My body was little more than an avatar, and I would even wait to make movements until I could feel the analog controller make a certain input. Once I did, I would move with a calculated purpose, going only where I felt the player desired me to go. To this day, I'm unsure if my consciousness was the avatar or it was the player. Perhaps it was part of both. This phenomenon extended to the events in my life as well. Events that I would come to cast as a story. I wouldn't call it a predetermined fate, but rather that places were calling to me, aware that I specifically would someday go there. I was impressed and still am that they were able to pre-render those parts of the level, although I can't be sure if they actually did. Particularly eventful days were cataloged in my brain as VHS direct-to-television sequels to A Charlotte's Web. I created countless of them and would even imagine things like the commercial advertising the movie, with scenes of my life playing in a small square on the left side, while the right side had a VHS-esque yellow background with the tape slowly rotating proudly. It was always standing on its corner. When I look back at my childhood, this is what I see. I want to stress this as much as I can. I mean it quite literally. Most of my memories are perceived as happening outside of my body, as if my consciousness itself was a free-roaming camera on Golf with Your Friends. To this day, I wonder if I was real. If I am real, even now. In Hazy Mind, Miranda acknowledges the game as, well, a game, multiple times in the script. And to me, this both acts as a subtle guide to players, but more importantly and thematically, the girl feels a similar phenomenon to what I described above. I don't think it's a coincidence that so many of these indie horror games about psychosis like Psychopomp, or even more AAA games like Hellblade, feature this fourth wall break. It acknowledges you, the player, because these protagonists suffer from expanded consciousness. Something that, especially when paired with the playing of video games as a young child, can lead to the formulation of a second self. An evil demon or some other being that controls your every thought and movement, just as you control a video game character yourself. Now, why exactly this happens, I explain in Explaining Away Psychosis, linked in the description of course, but in terms of how video gaming affects and perhaps even causes some form of psychosis, well, I'll leave that for a future video, maybe entitled How Video Games Induce Psychosis. Yeah, that seems like a good and nicely clickable title to me, but at the very least, I believe this is why the game breaks the fourth wall, and more of a milk outside a bag of milk and inside a bag of milk style, and not so much a DDLC style. Speaking of dissociation, I feel like we should talk about that a little bit too. As though not explicitly important to the game, well, it's important to me. So let's talk, dear viewer. I want to share another excerpt. This time from a Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk analysis. Enjoy. I want you to imagine this scenario. You're at the park and have been playing football nonstop for almost 2 hours now. You're beyond exhausted, but also exhilarated at the same time. It's hard to remember when you've had this much fun. The people you're playing with are some of your best friends. You've known them for countless years now. You're talking about nothing, laughing about everything. You're happy. But then, as you look at your friend's face, something you've normally done so many times, something is different. Something is wrong. That's not your friend. Did he always look like that? No, but he looks the same. He doesn't look any different than he did just a few moments ago. Then why? Why? What happened? And as you continue to question this, your friend becomes even more unknown to you. You've never seen this person in your entire life. They frighten you. You're scared, terrified. Your eyes are fine, but your mind, it starts to unravel their face, every single detail becoming foreign to you now. It disgusts you. Your friend disgusts you. You begin to question what a person even is, what a human even is. Are they human? Am I human? Your mind doesn't understand. How could it? They no longer appear before you as a person, but rather as some sort of alien, a monster. You're the only person left in the world, and you have no idea why. Your friend, someone you've known for years, you suddenly don't know them anymore. Yeah, I think you get the point here.
Don't you feel it's strange when you imagine me and ask such questions? Thanks for the compliment, but because you still can't decide who I am for you, you don't know yourself. How can you create a constant personality for me? To distinguish, you need to think. Assume something. Think critically. What could really happen, and what sounds illogical and unrealistic? Only in the end will you find out what's true and what's not. So, just believe what you believe.
This is actually really great advice.
No, it shouldn't. You're liberating both yourself and me. You're doing a good thing. We can't talk like this forever. We'll run out of topics before an hour passes. Okay, let's go home now.
Why? That is the question of today's video. I imagine that every car ride home will be my last. Every phone call with my mother will be the last time she ever hears my voice. I find it odd that if you express to someone that you're deeply unhappy, that they really just won't believe you. You're happy, you just don't think you deserve to be, or you're overthinking it. And yet, when you read about someone taking their own lives while also having a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, it so easily becomes, oh yeah, that makes sense. But nobody that doesn't experience it themselves, or those who study it to a lesser degree, actually understand why psychosis makes someone suicidal. I call it the mythologization of psychosis, and to be completely honest with you, I don't even really care if that's actually a word or not. I hope today's video has made you better understand how a psychotic individual suffers every day and why they would want to end it all. Even just past anhedonia that robs someone of their very ability to even feel joy. Psychosis is, in my estimations, the antithesis of happiness. And I don't think I could state it any more concretely than that. To be honest, I'm just tired. Here, I want to show you something. This is a game concept for a pitch I wrote up. Now, I will read it to you. I want you to imagine this scenario. You're washing your hands. And normally you would do 3 squirts of soap, 1 hand washing, and turn off the faucet twice. Then you would take 2 paper towels and dry your hands. You do 3 spurts of soap to protect both your girlfriend and your pet tortoise. You do 1 hand wash because you realize that one day you'll end up alone. You turn the faucet off twice and dry your hands with 2 paper towels to deny that fact and pray you'll stay together. But wait, that ends with 4 actions, which reminds you of her. Not your girlfriend, by the way. Sure, your total equals 7, which is 5 plus 2. 5 erases all your past sins, and 2, again, means you end up old and dying in such a beautiful way with your significant other. But can you really end with 4? Will she assault us again if we do that? But wait. Sure, 3 soap hits sounds good in theory. I mean, how else is your tortoise going to be protected? But you also realize you had a dream about that other girl last night. And since you used to, and sometimes still do, associate her with the number 3, and since you just had a dream about her, what does that say about you, you sick fuck? Are you truly that despicable? Okay, deep breaths, let's start over. Doing the same thing twice means 2, which is more than acceptable, but if we do it all again in the same way, we end up with 14. Which obviously contains both a 10 and a 4. 10 is great, as it's 5 times 2, both great numbers and a great combination, but 4? Unacceptable, you'll get assaulted again. But on the other hand, 7 times 2 is 14, and since 5 plus 2 is 7, and 7 times 2 is 14, that's a set of 2. Acceptable. But that's also 4 variables, and even more so, is 6 total numbers. What, do you actually want to date the girl from your dream and not your actual girlfriend? 3 times 2? What is wrong with you? Okay, let's just do 1 of everything, which would normally equal 4 actions, but if we snap our finger once, we can justify it being a 5th action, absolving you of your sins. But, damn it, that means every action is alone, without a buddy. Never mind what this is about you and your girlfriend, you begin to feel bad for each action. And you can hear their lonely cries in your skull. That just won't do. Perhaps if you do 2 of every action, that would equal 10, but then what about your tortoise? You then sit there for 10 minutes debating whether your dream or your pet is more immediately dire, and perhaps wash your hands 5 exact times to solve the situation, even if it's not perfect. Do you see now how something as simple as washing my fucking hands can become so tiresome? And more dire, recently even the number 5 has been breaking down in my mind. Without that number, and I want to stress the importance of this, my entire life system crumbles to dust. I would be left with only the number 27, but since 7 minus 2 is 5, well, you see the problem here. This, of course, is probably the most mundane example I could provide for you. Imagine my turmoil when it's actually something serious. I do this counting for literally every single thing I do. So much so that I'm making a game about it. This is just the OCD. When combined with psychosis, it transforms from a what if to a this is definitely going to happen. And that terrifies me. I don't want to be assaulted. Not again. Then there's the depression, or rather the negative symptoms of psychosis, to probably be more accurate. Then there's the trauma and the horrible intrusive thoughts, the crippling paranoia. Then there's, well, you've watched the video up to this point. I think you understand now. Why? Why I would want to end my own life. Not that it even matters. This mythical life I want to end never even started in the first place. All of this, everything, even writing this very video, is all on borrowed time. In the hospital, I met a guy whose name I obviously won't say. He had had a hard time with things lately and ended up, obviously, in a mental hospital. Except he left the second day I was there, yet returned on my 7th. He had been forced to come back because he was that determined to end his own life. And I talked to him a lot on his second stay, trying to convince him not to go through with it. And then he hit me with a question. What do I have to live for? And dear viewer, I couldn't answer his question. Not even just because I was in the same boat as him, hence why I was even there in the first place, but because I legitimately had no answer. I knew I couldn't give him simple pleasantries, optimistic yet empty replies of things will get better, because he deserved more than that. Because what if things never did get better? How could I possibly guarantee that for him? In the end, I was left speechless. Even now, while wondering how he's doing, I have to wonder whether or not he's even alive right now.
Me too. I love you just the way you are, and I want to always support you. I wish I was real too, but I'm not. You know that. I understand, but not all people are bad. There are real people who will support you and love you. You just haven't found them yet. They might be out there right now, doing something at this moment. Maybe they're also going through difficulties, but at some point in your life you'll meet them, and your life will change forever. You're just lonely, and that's why you're so attached to me. But in reality, there are many good people on this planet. You just have to step out of your comfort zone. Go outside, enjoy the moments, nature, without making excuses for yourself, without seeing yourself as the problem. If you like to come up with stories, you should find people who are also interested in that and discuss movies that you find interesting with them. People are social beings. They need interaction to not go crazy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course you're comfortable with me, because I'm a product of your imagination. I behave the way you want me to. Of course we can.
What I did eventually tell him, and what I'll tell you now, is to try. Just as we don't know if things will get better, we also can't be certain that they won't get better. If we can torture ourselves with the worst case scenario, why can't we be kind to ourselves and consider a brighter outcome, a more hopeful possibility? Try therapy, try medication, try being vulnerable. Because honestly, you really do have nothing to lose, right? I will live to see another day. Even if I wake up to the same dirty ceiling, to the same hell, I will remember what I told him. I will keep trying. I mean, what else am I supposed to do, right? And, as always, thank you for watching.